Has there ever been a very high, and when I say high, I'm talking about top 10, top 15 ranking, a very high preseason ranking that Razorback Sports actually lived up to in that same season? The only reason I'm asking that is because I feel like more often than not, when they get that nod, when they get that love that they're going to be a top 10, top 15 team in any sport, it usually doesn't go that way. I think back to, the 2012 John L. Smith year, where they were preseason ranked top 10, and that didn't work out. I think about when Arkansas was preseason top 10, top 15, Darren McFadden's last year. They went 8-4, still a good team, but not to that level. I think to when Razorback basketball just 2 seasons ago, preseason ranked number 8, I think, or at least right there. And some people had them winning the national championship. Didn't work out. And even baseball, I feel like baseball probably has the closest one. But I remember, I think we talked about it, Andrew, 2010, 2011, something like that, where they were preseason ranked number 1.
2013 with Ryan Stanek when he was coming back. They were ranked number 1, and then they led the country in ERA.
Yeah.
And didn't make it out of the regional.
Yeah, that's disgusting. So I was just curious, is there anything that comes to mind when as close as it could be where Razorbacks actually lived up to the preseason expectation that was high? Hopefully there's a year out there. Like even under Muss, I was feeling like the year they had Moody and all them. Like
most of those years they weren't ranked preseason super high. So like there's been years where Arkansas outperformed it, but rarely when they were ranked highly. I will say Petrino had a couple years. In 2010, I don't think they were preseason. They were like preseason like maybe 23 or something like that. Obviously outperformed that. 2011, I think they were preseason like 12, 14. They outperformed that as well. 2018 baseball is the only one I can think of where it's like they started the year really high, finished the year really high. Of course, they finished number 2 in the polls that year. I think they started like 4 or 5. That's probably the closest, like most accurate high ranking prediction I've seen for Arkansas that they've lived up to. And that's in my 27-year lifetime. I landed like 3 seasons across 3 sports.
I think the Amude, Aldis Tony that year, they might have been, were they top 10 coming into that year?
High.
I mean, they made the Elite 8. It's just weird because Muss's teams would always do the thing where they'd really fall off in January and maybe like fall out of the rankings, but then they'd figure it out and get like a 4 seed, and they made it that far. So maybe that year, I don't know. The Muss years were tricky.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. The year that Amude and all them were there, was that 2020, 2021, or is that 22? That was 21, 22, right?
And they were preseason number 16, Curtis. They were preseason 16, and they finished
year? Okay.
Probably higher than that. I would imagine higher than that because they went to the Elite 8, right? So that's probably the closest in terms of Muss of them outperforming a good preseason expectation.
So was it the next year that they were top 10 then when Nick and AB and all Jordan Walsh, all those guys were there? It must
that would make sense, right?
Yep.
Or really up. Maybe it was.
Yeah, they were AP top number 10.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that one they didn't live up to either. But that's the deal.
What'd they finish in that year? Probably like 15 in the AP poll.
In which year? This Anthony Black year?
Anthony Black year. Like they went to the Sweet 16. They probably were in the top 20, right?
Well, in the final rankings, Arkansas was 21st.
Wow, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Lowballed them.
Yeah. Just didn't give them the love.
2 years in the last 3 years, Arkansas's made the Sweet 16 and not been ranked top 16 after the season.
Just to make it make sense. But the reason I thought about that and wanted to bring it up is because I feel like almost that's made Razorback fans in general be very weary of like preseason rankings. And it sucks because it's like at one point in time, I'm hoping maybe it's this year in basketball with Cal. Maybe this is the year where they get that top 10, top 15 love. And then here we are at the end of the season recapping it. And we're like, hey, Arkansas finished number 7, in the final AP rankings or something where it's like, all right, well, they called it. They got it right. But then at the other side of it too, it's like, man, maybe Arkansas does better when everyone's doubting them preseason and no one thinks they're going to be any good. And then they end up being great. Maybe that's the way it goes. But yeah, I just want to be ranked. I like to be talked about and I like to be in the national conversation. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, it was like, because we were talking about the 2012 John L. Smith year. I remember Tyler Wilson and Niall Davis went on ESPN First Take. Do you guys remember that? Like with Skip Bayless and all of that.
Very, very vaguely. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
And I felt really bad for them because there was a national tragedy that day. I think it was the Boston Marathon bombings, something like that. And they had to go on and they were like, hey, sorry I had to come on to this show talking about the upcoming season under these circumstances. They're just, yeah, that's rough. But either way. That's the type of stuff I like. I like being hyped. I like having the SEC basketball media days when we go. I mean, obviously last year was about Cal being at a new school, which shout out to him. Can we just again pay respects to the man when he got up there and he got asked? I think it was Myron Metcalf. Is that who I'm thinking of? Who asked him a question about Kentucky and Arkansas, and he just basically goes, "Look, man, I've been interviewed. I've answered that question like 5 times. So if you want to think about that, just go and look back at some of those interviews I did before." So
saw like 5 Kentucky people lower their hands. They had questions, and then he was like, "I'm not talking about Kentucky," and they're like, "Oh, that's actually."
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so but that's what I like to have. I like to have, because with Cal, you're always going to be talked about, obviously, but to have the greatness to come along with it too, and the expectation to come along with it too, will be a lot of fun. So, because what was Arkansas's preseason rank this past year? Maybe you guys said it and I just don't remember. 16. Okay. Oh, there you go. Worked out perfectly then, if that was the case.
They adequately lived up to expectations. That's what they did.
That's right.
Went exactly as planned this year.
Exactly right.